Hi YouTube, welcome back to Wtf Rc Cars. So, cracking on with the upgrade vids for the little Losi Micro B. We've got the GPM rear hubs. These things are tiny, so this is going to be a challenge to get this on video. But the part number is LMB022-B, and they are the 1/24 Micro B alloy rear hubs. These ones are in blue. So we picked these up from Model Sport. I'll pop a link in the description below as usual. And yeah, let's bring in for a close-up look and see how we manage to focus on these tiny little things. So to start with, we've got his little hubs. Let's have a look what we get with these. I know in the past, certainly aftermarket parts for the micro cars, it's been a bit hit and miss with no instructions with the parts, and some parts come with screws and some parts don't. But we've got some really nicely machined parts. They're all badged up GPM. Looks like the threads are already in the holes for us, and these are marked up L and R. So yeah, quite nice. But let's crack on and see what we need to do to get these fitted. So first off, we're going to have to get one of these wheels off. So you're just going to have to make sure you've got some kind of tool to remove the nut. And I think this is going to be the easiest part, because after this wheel nut everything gets microscopic. So we have one little locking wheel nut removed. Then you can slide the wheel off. Then we've got the hex itself, so we're going to need to remove that. Usually with these, if you just get a thin bladed knife, you can just pry them off. So we've got our hex removed. Then don't lose your tiny little hex drive pin. Now we can move on and have a look how it's going to actually fit. So I believe this one will be the left hand side one. So the dimensions look correct. So first off, we're going to need an 050 driver to undo the screw into the actual arm itself. So you should be able to remove that nice and easy. Then we should be able to just remove the actual hub. We're going to have to get the ball joint off. So once we've got that removed, try not to let your drive shaft fall out. So then we're going to have to remove our output shaft. Then we've got to remove his bearings. And I believe these are the same size, both inner and outer. So we can get them off. We can then refit his bearings into his new hub. Just make sure they're seated all the way. Then you can pop your drive shaft or your output shaft back in. Then you're going to need your little hex pin. Then we can sit the hex back on. Then finally, we've got to get this tiny little ball joint off, and the stock setting is the outer hole. So we're just going to have to unscrew this and screw it into that hole. Now this is going to be a challenge, because I am not even sure if I have got a socket that small. In fact, yep. So luckily it looks like this fits. I'm not entirely sure what I got this little socket driver with. It's definitely with one of RC's. Doesn't look like a Tamiya one, although kicking around here we do have a Tamiya one. Don't think that's going to fit. So So we can carefully unscrew this, and it's in the inner of the holes, and you're gonna be want to be incredibly gentle as you're screwing these in. Now normally where it's metal on metal, I would suggest putting a little bit of thread lock, but on something this small I think it's probably just going to round off if you try and use thread lock on it. So now we need to get it back on our suspension link. So I'm doing my absolute best to get this on camera for you, but as I say, these are minute. Then you need to line your drive shaft back up with your out drive. Then we're going to want to pop our screw back through. And again with the 050 driver, just be incredibly gentle when you're tightening these up. One, you don't want to crush it. Two, you don't want to strip threads. So it just needs to be nipped up. And there we have one of our aluminium GPM rear hubs attached. So let's pop his wheel on, make sure we don't get any weird clearance issues. And I must apologise now if the focus is a little off on this, but it's hard enough for me to focus on it, never mind my camera. So it's a lot easier if you get the wheel nuts started by hand. And again, when you're tightening these up, don't try and go crazy tight with them. It is a lock nut, so it's not going to spin loose. But that's now fitted. We can just about make it out inside wheel. There's no binding, no clearance issue, and it certainly looks like it doesn't affect the geometry in any negative way. So that's one fitted. Let's get the other one done now. So again, just get this wheel nut off, and I'll do my best to get you a size for this. So it looks like it's around 3.5mm for the actual nut itself. So again, we just need to very carefully free off the hex, drop out as drive pin. Then we're going to unscrew the bottom pin. We can drop this to one side and just take out the ball stud connector. We're going to remove the out drive. Just push out as bearings. Then we're going to refit the bearings in as hub. Refit our out drive. There's tiny little hex drive pin. Pop his X drive back on. And then to save any kind of confusion, we have got an R on the original part as well as an R on the GPM part. So again, we're just going to have to undo this tiny little ball stud. To be totally honest, I did think this may be a bit more awkward to work on than it is with the scale of it, but I'm going to put it back in a stock position. Which, when this is facing the RC, it's the innermost hole. And then I'm just going to carefully nip this up. Don't over tighten it. And I'll try my best to get a size for this. Looks like it's a 2.5 nut on that, 2.5 mil. Next, we need to get his hub back into place on the ball stud. So once we snap that back on, we've got our drive shaft that we need to drop into place. And as I said, I'm doing my absolute best to try and get as much of this on video as I can for you, but it's pretty difficult trying to line these tiny things up and keeping my fingers out way of the actual camera shot. But that's why I decided to do one of these from top down and one with the RC upside down, so at least it gives you a fair chance of seeing what I'm doing. And again, don't try and over tighten this, because you'll just try and crush these two ends together and it'll restrict your travel. So that's the stock parts removed. And again, with this little wheel nut, I would try and start it by hand first. That way you can be a bit more confident that you're not cross-threading. And as soon as you've got it on just a few turns, you should be able to get the actual nut driver on, get it into place. And as I say, don't try and over tighten this, especially important if you're still running the plastic hexes, because they will crush. But yeah, it fits really nicely. They do look really nice, and the geometry looks correct once they're on, and they're going to give you a certainly a bit more strength than these stock plastic parts. And you can always keep your plastic parts as spares. What I would do is, because all these parts are tiny and GPM quite nicely supply some little zip bags, I would keep your stock parts all together, and then if for any reason you want to put them back to stock, you've got them, or at least you know where they all are, and you could sell them to one of your friends or family, or pass them along to friends or family that are racing one in stock and they ain't got any modded parts and they break one of the little hubs. But that is the GPM LMB022-B, and it's the alloy rear hubs in blue for the little Losi Micro B. So let's wrap this one up. So there we have it, the GPM alloy hubs. They do fit really nice. There's no binding issue or anything. There's no slopping them whatsoever. So yeah, quite a nice little upgrade. Not too bad to fit, just a little bit fiddly, and you need to make sure that you've got what looks to be like a 2.5 and a 3.5 nut driver, especially to get the tiny little ball studs off. Would have been nice if they'd got an 050 drive in the middle of them, but Losi didn't take that approach, or Losi, depending on what you want to call it. So thanks again for watching Wtf Rc Cars. Hopefully you find that useful, entertaining, just like listening to my incessant ramblings. But don't forget to share to friends and family. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And catch you again in the next one.